Hello, my friends. Leo Babauta of Zen Habits here, and in this video, we're going to talk about quitting alcohol, or at least drastically reducing your alcohol consumption, if that's something that you would like. It's something that I've done personally. I don't think alcohol is evil. I don't think you need to quit it completely, but we're going to talk a little bit about why I did it, and if it's something that you're interested in doing, I'm going to talk about my best tips for how to actually implement it based on my own experience, not only with quitting alcohol, but with quitting smoking and with my expertise in habit change over the years. So let's dig into it if this is something that you're interested in. So let's talk first of all about why quit alcohol. Is it evil to quit alcohol? I mean, to drink alcohol? No. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with having a glass of wine, having a beer, having a cocktail. These are, you know, totally fine things to do. But for me personally, I am someone who cares a lot about my health, first of all. And I have been paying attention to all of the research that's been coming out about how bad alcohol is for us over the long run. Again, one or two drinks, three drinks in a night is not going to kill you or even really change your health status at all if it's, one night. But if we're having drinks over the course of a week, months, years, it accumulates. And so there are actually cancerous effects of alcohol over the long run. And it used to be that we could, have a couple of drinks a night if you're a man, one drink a night if you're a woman, and actually they thought that was healthier. These days, that's not where the scientific opinion is at the moment. We actually think that drinking, less than that, one drink a week is better than one drink a night. And while like your risk of cancer or other kinds of health outcomes, bad health outcomes, don't go up that much if you're having a drink or two a night. It does go up somewhat. And again, I'm someone who cares a lot about my health, and so I'm if I don't need alcohol, if it isn't something that I actually have to have, then why not cut back to a minimal amount? Um, and so that's the first thing, is that I actually think that the risk of drinking a drink or two a night, is not that high, but it is something. It's not zero. So we actually are taking a risk. It's like every time we go out and cross the street, we are risking something, even though, we probably won't get hit by a car. There is a chance of getting hit by a car, excuse me, every time we cross the street. And so, you know, I'm not saying don't go out there, of course, go out for walks, cross streets. It isn't gonna kill you for the most part. But for alcohol, like there isn't a positive for drinking alcohol, um, as far as I can tell. Now, there are a couple other things that I want to mention as we talk about the whys. So, does it give you some stress relief? A lot of us use it for stress relief. Now, yeah, I think to some extent it can reduce some stress. If you're drinking it in social situations, it can relax you a little bit, and it can improve our sociability. But I personally think that there are other ways to achieve that aim. So we can reduce stress, we can socialize without alcohol, without drugs. Um, and so we don't have to have the risks of the negative health effects just to get the positive thing. Um, for me, also, the other thing that I didn't like is that I was becoming reliant on alcohol for stress relief. And so, having a drink or two every night, to like unwind and relax, it's a nice thing, but is that the only way that I can unwind and relax? Do I have to have it? And I think a lot of us who have a drink or two a night for that reason, it becomes this have to have. We can't even sometimes even imagine our lives without that glass of wine or that beer at the end of the day. And so that was something that I didn't really like, was that I started to become reliant on it to socialize, for stress relief, to have fun, to bring some joy into my life. So these are my reasons. I didn't really like the being reliant on it. I didn't think that I needed it for these positive benefits, and it actually does have a long-term health risk. Um, a couple of things on the background of like my journey with alcohol. Um, I've never been a heavy drinker, so I'm not someone who will drink several drinks a night for the most part. Once in a while in my younger days, I would go out and party, but like it wasn't something that I got into very often. I was never a binge drinker, was never someone who had 3 to 5 drinks a night. I was always one drink a night, maybe two. Um, but at certain points in recent years, a few years ago, I think at one point I was drinking, I moved up from one drink a night to two. And it was 2 drinks every single night after a while. And it was enjoyable. I really liked it, but it just became this kind of habit, this routine that I got stuck in. And I'm like, I don't really like that I'm stuck in this rut. And so a number of times over the years, over the last few years, I decided, let me go the month without it. So I would go the month without it, and then would continue after the month, and then it wasn't that hard, and so I'm like, okay, I'm totally fine. And then I would drink for social reasons, usually, to unwind with my wife, and eventually, I would get back into the same exact habit, drink every night, sometimes more. And so that kind of happened a number of times. I would quit for a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, and then slip back in. Um, and so I started to take a look at that, like what's going on there. And so I kind of had a number of these cycles. Now it might still happen again. So as I talk about these cycles, maybe I'm in the good part of the cycle where I don't drink a lot, I don't drink at all, and then I'll go back to it, which is totally fine. I never get too bad with it lately. After that one time where I was doing 2 drinks a night, I haven't gone back to two a night. I've gone back to one a night on multiple occasions, and I don't think I'm going to get back to that based on recent months because I haven't actually had a drink a night for quite a while. I think more than a year. What I have done is had, a drink a week, a couple drinks a week, somewhere in that range, a couple of times. But lately I haven't been drinking at all, really, for the last couple of months. Before that, it was just for special occasions with my wife. And I still think I might do special occasions once in a while. I think I did have a glass of um, bubbly and a New Year's Eve, so it's not an evil thing for me. Okay, so with that background, oh, one more thing in my background, which is that my father and grandfather on my mom's side were both alcoholics at one point. My dad was a lifelong alcoholic and eventually a drug addict. So, yeah, it's possible that I have some genetics towards alcohol use, but I've never actually become even close to becoming an alcoholic, so I'm not too worried about that. But it is in my family history. Okay, so how have I actually done it? Well, I mentioned to you the first part, which is that a few times actually have gone from drinking every night to let me just take the month off. So it's like a little bit of a break for my body. And what I found when I took those months off is that I actually sleep better without alcohol. I've read about that, but I actually saw the results in my own life. And that's very positive, like reinforcing. So I sleep better. I might lose a little bit of weight pretty effortlessly because I'm not drinking several hundred calories a night. So that's kind of nice. And then I barely actually miss it when I go without it. For a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, I do miss it a bit, but I don't really miss it. I don't need to replace it with anything. I just find other ways to enjoy myself, to unwind, to socialize, or find some stress relief. And so that's actually my main thing is find what I want to do when it gets to become a certain time at night. So let's say I want to read or go out for a walk or do something social with my wife other than drink. So I need a strategy when it comes to becomes that time. And then also when I'm stressed out, what can I do instead? So for me, again, exercise is a really good one. So I started changing exercise from the morning to the evening. Excuse me. And that really helps because I uh, I like to unwind with some exercise and relieve some stress. And I could socialize with my wife at that point as well. For example, we could go out for a run or a walk together, and so that was really nice. Um, Another thing that I had to deal with was social pressure. So maybe other people would drink, and I would just, have a strategy. My strategy was I'll just tell them like, "Hey, I'm not drinking right now." I could give them a number of reasons, but it would just be like, "Hey, I'm not really drinking right now." Turns out most people don't really pressure you into it. The ones who do are the ones who have more of a problem themselves with alcohol. They don't know how to socialize, have fun, enjoy themselves without alcohol. And so it's actually good to identify those people. You'll see it because you'll tell them, "Hey, I'm not drinking right now. I'm doing some kind of cleanse month or whatever." And then they're like, "Oh, come on." Like, and then they'll just keep pressuring you. And, eventually you just have to kind of put your foot down. But then you realize like that person is someone who's going to pressure me. And you might talk to them on another occasion, but eventually, like, it might be that those people aren't really your people. I've known a number of people who decided to leave their friend groups because their friend groups were all people who didn't know how to get together without alcohol. And so that's actually very enlightening. It's good information to have is who's got your back when you decide to take a little bit of time off. It is actually really good to actually define some time off. Again, a month is a good period, and tell people around you, hey, I'm not going. I'm going this month without alcohol. I could really use your support here. So that's another strategy that I think really helps. Ahead of time, let people know, and then they're like, oh yeah, Leo's doing that thing, so then they don't pressure you. Um, some people like to get into replacement drinks. So I actually for a little while did try non-alcoholic drinks. There's the tiniest amount of alcohol in commercial non-alcoholic drinks. So, for example, non-alcoholic beer does have 0.5% alcohol in a lot of cases. I think that's okay. It's not going to really affect your health. You won't feel a buzz. Um, but the nice thing about non-alcoholic drinks is that you can socialize with others who are having alcohol and has something that looks and tastes, pretty much in the same category. It's not going to be exactly the same. Non-alcoholic beer is not as good as regular beer. Neither is non-alcoholic cocktails or whatever, but that's okay. Like it doesn't have to be the same. It's something that allows you to have something that's nice, that is similar to what people are having around you without them feeling like weird, right? So, for example, I might pour a non-alcoholic beer into a cup, and honestly, if I don't say anything, most people don't even know. If they ask, they're like, "Hey, I thought you were drinking an alcohol." And I'm like, oh, "It's actually non-alcoholic. I just wanted to like have the taste of beer as we all sit together." So I don't do that every day, but when there is some kind of social gathering, I might actually indulge in some kind of non-alcoholic drink. That said, you don't have to buy like a specialty kind of non-alcoholic thing. You can have like juice, have, some sparkling soda, have lemonade. Lemonade is a great, delicious drink that you can have while everyone else is having alcohol. Now, one little warning that I want to give you is I don't actually recommend replacing alcohol with sugary drinks most nights. Lemonade is a soda. These are things that have sugar in them. And if we take what we used to drink in alcohol and just replace it with sugar every single night, it's actually not going to be much healthier, if at all. I think sugary drinks are not good for us either. So having it, let's say I go out on Friday nights with my friends and I have a lemonade or two or three, not that big of a deal. But if every night I'm having three lemonades, that becomes a problem because I'm now just pouring sugar into my bloodstream. And that's not something that I think is good for us. So, we're not afraid of sugar, we're not afraid of alcohol, but sugary drinks can be a nice thing to have in those kinds of occasions. If it's once a week, once every month, have a couple of sweet drinks, totally fine. Ginger ale is another one that I really like. Ginger beer. These are nice things that have like a little bit of a bite to them. It's pretty nice. Root beer is a nice one. You can ask any decent bartender, can you make me a non-alcoholic cocktail? And they'll do it, and they're actually getting really good at it. So I think that's a nice thing to have to pull out of your pocket if you need that kind of thing. Um, that said, most nights I would say don't do that. You don't need it. What you'll find is after a couple of nights, you actually don't miss it. And that's actually one of the really nice things. I haven't been missing it at all. For a little while, you kind of like, ooh, I wish I could have it, but then you don't miss it. And that's similar to how I felt after about a week or so quitting cigarettes, is that I didn't really miss it. You have to kind of go through a period where you do miss it, and then just breathe, keep yourself busy, distract yourself, do something else, and then eventually that urge goes away, and that might come back again the same night. But do the same thing. Breathe, distract yourself, keep yourself busy, exercise, do whatever you need to do so that you don't focus too much on the urge. But after a few days, maybe a week, you actually don't miss it at all. The only times that I might miss it after that are when it's shown on TV or a movie and they're like, oh, drinking these great cocktails or beer or whatever. I do start to have a craving in my mouth. And so then what I might do is find a way to meet that craving without it. Again, if it's a cocktail and it's like, oh my God, these guys have such a cool, like looking old-fashioned cocktail that they drink, it makes my mouth thirsty. You can make cocktails without alcohol. You can make an old fashioned, for example, using some black tea. Brew some really good tea, put some, simple syrup into that, put some bitters into it, some ice, maybe a garnish of an orange or a cherry, and you've got like a freaking nice cocktail. So when you see that, you're like, oh, I'm really craving an old fashioned because you saw it, Brad Pitt drinking it. Great. Make your own. George Clooney, whoever, these cool dudes. Same thing, if you see a beer, go to the store and buy yourself a ginger beer. Like these things aren't quite the same thing, but they hit the mouth craving when you're feeling it. Or just let it pass. Breathe a little bit, be like, ooh, that looks really good, and then it'll pass, in a few minutes. Um, I think that's about all the tips that I want to say. In the long run, I am all about moderation. So, will I have beer again? Yes. Will I ever go to a brewery and do some beer tasting? Absolutely. Will I ever do wine tasting again? For sure. But I'm going to make those special occasions. They're not something that I'm going to rely on as a nightly or even weekly kind of treat. I think we all need to find the level that works for us, and I don't think we should be afraid of alcohol or sugar. But what's the level that will be long term healthy for you while also making you live a life that's happy and balanced and social and, able to deal with stresses in your life? And so for me, that's what I'm finding, and I encourage you to find that for yourself. If you are a someone who drinks heavily every night, you will need more support than what I'm talking about here. You're going to need, you know, a 12-step program, some kind of counselor, some kind of therapist, some kind of person who's gone through it and can talk to you about these kinds of things. Because in the end, what we're doing is we are using our addiction to deal with stresses of life that we don't want to deal with. So we numb ourselves out, we comfort ourselves, and after a while, we just don't have the tools to cope with the stresses of life and our own feelings of inadequacy and these kinds of things without it. And so it becomes very, very difficult. And so I really encourage you to find the support that you need. There are good resources out there for people who need support to get through their addiction. And therapy is a good one, support groups, those kinds of things. People who have ways of helping you through um, the difficult part of addiction, but also learning how to change our not only our behaviors, but our mindset. How do we talk to ourselves so that we can deal with these stresses in different ways, so that we can deal with our own feelings of shame and guilt and regret and inadequacy in ways that are healthier. And that is a longer term project that is beyond the scope of this video. So I encourage you to find the resources for that if you are in that place. I'm going to finish by saying I hope this was helpful. Feel free to send this to someone who, like you, might be interested in either reducing or quitting alcohol. And, put some questions in the comments if you have them. I'm always happy to answer questions. Um, it really helps if you subscribe, if you like this video, if you comment, because that helps the algorithm to help others find videos like this. So please help out the channel. I appreciate everyone who's been commenting and who's been subscribing, who's been forwarding this on to others and giving us some good comments. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you all. Thank you for watching a Zen Habits video. I'll talk to you all later.